Hello and welcome to the next standard, that is AS12 on government grants. Now this is a standard which is very unique to a very specific item, that is government and grants. So what do you mean by government and then what do you mean by grants? Well, the government over here will include the state government, central government, even local authorities like municipalities who have administrative powers, and even international bodies like the UN, etc. Basically they should have administrative powers. However, this does not include government companies like you have SBI, ONGC. They are for profit entities, they don't have administrative powers, they are commercial entities and hence they are not government. So AS12 covers grants which are given by the government. Now we understand probably what is government, but then what is a grant? A grant is something which is non-refundable. It is like a subsidy where the government wants to give you some support. It gives you an amount, and if you fulfill the conditions, you don't have to give it back. So grant is quantifiable. Sometimes you have government assistance, that government gives you support, it gives you some technical assistance or logistic support, it does not give you kind of a grant. And as a result, when we look at, let us say, government grants are something which are quantifiable by their definition, and hence government grants have two essential features. First, government; second is grants. So over here, grants are something which can be received from any parties. It can be received from your employers, from your local communities, from your friends. They will be accounted as per GAAP. However, if the grants are given by the government, they will be accounted for as per AS12. Now AS12 covers all government grants. However, there are some clarifications or scope exclusions. That is, if the government makes an equity investment, it is an investment where the government takes a stake and not a grant. Second, the government gives you a loan. Loan by default is repayable. Grants are not repayable, and hence loan is not a grant. And third, if government gives you any assistance. Now these are assistance which cannot be quantified, like it gives you priority check-in in a particular lane for let's say your toll or logistics, in which case the government is giving you a support. You can't quantify it, and hence that is an assistance. And also sometimes government gives you deductions or exemptions in the form of income tax. The accounting for that will be governed by AS22, which is on deferred taxes, and as a result you will not take tax exemptions or deductions as a part of government grants. So next is on initial recognition. When should the grant initially be recognized? Well, the grant becomes receivable and the conditions attached to the grant are reasonably certain or likely to be fulfilled. Now we don't need to wait till the time the grant is actually received. Like for example, when we look at let's say an electrical vehicle, a lot of states or government of India gives you, let's say, some subsidies. If you were to buy an electrical vehicle, let us say you were to buy in the Tata Nexon EV, let's say it costs you 10 lakh rupees, the government says I'll give you a subsidy of 1 lakh rupees. And as a result, when do I recognize the grant? Well, when I recognize it, when I take the test drive? No. Do I recognize it when I buy the car? Well, merely because I buy the car does not mean I get the grant. I'll have to make an application. The government will give me a sanction, and once it gives me a sanction letter, after that a few months or weeks later I'll get the money. So the moment the grant becomes receivable, that is, the government gives me a sanction and approval, is the time when the grant becomes receivable and you can recognize it. Now the grant may be subjected to certain conditions, like you cannot sell the vehicle for the next 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. If it is likely that you will fulfill those conditions, then the standard says you don't need to wait till the time the conditions are fulfilled, the grant can be recognized. So the two things: the grant has to be receivable and a reasonable assurance that the conditions attached should be fulfilled. These are the two conditions. Basically, you don't need to wait till the time the grant is actually received. You don't need to wait till the time all conditions are fulfilled. This is for initial recognition. Next, once you receive, or once you are eligible for a grant, you will recognize it. But how will you record it? The standard gives you three classifications. First, it's a specific grant, the most important in my opinion. The specific grant, that is a grant which is linked to the acquisition, purchase or construction of an asset, like a PP or an intangible. Like the example that we discussed for the electrical vehicle, that is buying a car, it is a specific grant which is linked to acquisition, construction or development of a specific tangible or intangible asset. Second is a revenue grant, which is a grant which is linked to meeting certain expenses, or let us say meeting up certain shortfall in revenue. Like you are Bharat Gas and the government says you send LPG cylinders at a lower price. Instead of selling it at 500, please sell it at 300. The other 200 rupees we will give to you. So this is not a grant for acquisition of an asset. This is a grant to compensate you for selling at a lower price. Or you are a hospital company like Apollo or Fortis, and the government says you need to send your doctors to the rural India. You are reluctant, government says we will pay for the cost. Or you want to or the government wants you to train the employees and the government gives you a grant. This is not linked to acquisition or construction of a specific asset. In fact, it is linked to you meeting a particular expense or you charging a lower revenue for your product. So these are grants for meeting specific expenses or compensation for charging a lower revenue, and these are called as revenue grants. And lastly, these are the grants in the nature of promoters contribution. This is the third. In the nature of promoters contribution, this is generally a grant which the government gives for encouraging you to set up a unit, let us say in a backward area. In a backward area, if you have to set up a particular unit, then the government tries to encourage me. It gives me, let's say, a lump sum 5 lakh rupees, and it says this 5 lakh rupees can be used for any purpose. By the way, you can buy an asset from it, you can pay for employee salaries for it, you can advertise it, and hence this is the nature of promoters contribution. Promoter, when he pumps in money in the company, there is no color of money attached. The money pumped in by the promoter can be used for any purpose. So it is a lump sum grant without any specific utilization instruction. Usually grants which are linked to you setting up units in a backward region are generally grants in nature of promoters contribution. Now this is very important because your accounting depends on how the classification was. So if the classification was a specific grant, then the standard gives you two choices. You can either reduce the grant from the cost of the asset, or you can show it as a deferred income or a deferred grant account and then defer it in the ratio of depreciation. It is best understood with a numerical. So for example, if there is an asset which is costing 100 rupees, the government is giving you a reimbursement or a monetary grant of 200, and the life of the asset is 10 years. In which case, when you purchase the asset, the entry will be asset account debit to bank, let us say 300. Then the government gives you the reimbursement, bank account debit 200 to what? Well, you will credit what? Well, in the first method, you will reduce it from the cost of the asset. We will say that the asset costed 100 rupees to us. So to asset, you will credit 200. Now that makes your asset come down to 300 minus 200, that is 100 balance, and hence over the next 10 years there will be a depreciation of 100 divided by 10, that is equal to 10. So over here your depreciation will be 10 per annum. Second method over here is, you might say that, well, the government is giving me a grant and hence the asset is costing me 100, but if the government tomorrow removes such grants, then future assets will not cost me 100, they are actually costing me 300. So I want to show the asset at 300 and grant separately. So my entry will be still asset account debit to bank 300, and then bank account debit I will credit to a deferred income or a deferred grant account. And what will I do? Well, will I take the deferred grant to the PNL? The answer is no. Well, why? Well, the grant is for an asset. Asset is not going to the PNL immediately. In fact, the asset goes to the PNL over the years in the form of depreciation. So the grant which is connected to that asset will also go to the PNL over the years in the ratio of depreciation. And as a result, over here you would say that your asset will be at 300, grant will be at 200, depreciation 30 rupees each year for the depreciation, and then grant income will be booked in the PNL as other income. 200 divided by 10 in the ratio of depreciation, that is 20 per annum. So this is the second entry, is a little more important. Now generally the first method is a slightly faster method, and hence if nothing is going in the question, you can follow the first method. Having said that, you can always write an alternative note and follow the second method as well, though most of the institute sums are based on the first method. This is usually the method where you reduce it from the cost of the asset. Now these are for monetary grants. Sometimes instead of giving you a reimbursement of 200, government gives you the asset itself at a concessional price of, let's say, 100 rupees, in which case the entries by and large remain the same. You can either record the asset net, that is asset account debit to bank 100, and then depreciate the asset, that is 10 rupees each year, or you can show the asset at 300, asset account debit 300, to grant, let us say 200, deferred grant to, let us say, bank of 100, and then deferred grant will be deferred in the ratio of depreciation each year. So the workings remain the same. Now by and large there are 2 or 3 special cases for this that you need to remember. First, what if the asset is received free of cost, or the government is giving you full reimbursement, in which case under the net method the asset will not appear only in the books. So your asset will have a zero balance. 300 rupees, government is also giving you a grant of 300, asset has a zero balance. In such cases the standard says that you should record the asset at a nominal value. Nominal value is a value for namesake, maybe 1 rupee, 10 rupee, 100 rupees, lowest denomination. You can just show the value. The idea over here is to signpost, in the sense that you will show the asset at the nominal value and then give a reference note in your financial statement. So a reader is kind of guided to an appropriate note where an explanation will be given that the asset is available free of cost. Otherwise, a reader will see so many windmills in your company which the government has given you as a grant, and when he opens a balance sheet, he will see that there is no windmill appearing. So you will guide them that, let us say, windmill is shown at a token amount of 1 rupees in the balance sheet, and then you say refer note, for example, 38, and in note 38 you will explain all of this. So basically this problem arises in the net method, that is the first method. In the second method, even if the asset is received free of cost, the asset will be at 300 and the grant will appear at 300, the asset will appear. But in the first method, the asset will come to a zero balance, and as a result, over here, if it is a grant which is to be shown, the asset is received free of cost, I will show it at nominal value. Second effect, if any, will be taken into the capital reserve. Okay, next when you look at grant for a non-depreciable asset like a land, like for example if I take the first method, no problem, land account debit 300 to bank 300 and then bank account debit 200 to land 200, and hence the land will net appear at 100 and will not get further depreciated. But the problem is in the second method, land account debit 300 to bank 300, bank account debit 200 that I received to deferred grant 200. Deferred grant means I have to defer it. Generally I defer it in the ratio of depreciation, but land does not get depreciated, and as a result I'll be kind of hitting a roadblock. Well, if I don't have an appropriate ratio to depreciate it or to spread over that, the standard allows you to take it to the capital reserve. The standard over here says, in this case, instead of crediting a deferred grant which you are not going to defer, you credit what is called as a capital reserve. So this is a possibility, for example, in the second alternative. Now this is regarding asset linked grants, which is the specific grants which are most important. Second, what if there is a revenue grant? Revenue grant is a grant to meet expenses or compensate for selling at a lower price. So the standard over here says that when you receive the grant, you will pass entry bank account debit to, let us say, deferred grant. Well, why? Because the training expenses or the sales are going to happen in the future, and you will spread this deferred grant over the future years in the ratio of the expected expenses or sales, as the case may be. And if there is no ratio available for the expected expenses or sales, then you can spread it over the remaining years for which the grant is there on a straight line basis. Like for example, the government might give you a 400 rupees grant for training your employees over 4 years. Now if I know what is the expected training expenses over the 4 years, then that deferred grant I'll spread over the ratio of the training expenses. But if I don't know that, then I'll spread it on a straight line basis in each of the years. That is deferred grant account debit, let's say 100, 400 divided by 4, to grant income, let us say 100. Each year training expenses will be debited, grant income will be credited. Training expenses will be debited, grant income will be credited. You will keep on doing this over the next, for example, 4 years. Now in this case there are two alternative presentations possible. You can either show, for example, each year you are doing 150 of training expenses. You can either show the training expenses of 150 as we can see over here and subtract the grant income. So this is 150 minus 100, and hence the net 50 of training expenses can be shown, or you can show training expenses of 150 only and separately show 100 rupees as grant income amortized. Both methods are available. In the specific grants, remember, if you follow the net method, depreciation is directly 10. If you follow the gross method, that is show a deferred grant, then depreciation will always be 30 and the grant income in other income will always be 20. Here you are allowed to either net that off and show the net training expenses, or you are allowed to show it as other income as well. This is provided a grant is linked to you having to incur further expenses or having some other future obligations. However, if the grant is given as a compensation for past losses, like you have suffered some losses and the government gives you compensation for that, then that is a compensation for losses already incurred. If the losses have already been incurred, there is no further conditions or expenses that you have to incur, and hence the entire amount can also be taken to the P&L immediately. But usually institute does not really ask for that. So this is revenue grants, we will create deferred grant and then deferred grant account debit to grant income over the 4 years. And then there is a grant in the nature of promoter's contribution. Now because this is a lump sum grant, we don't know the reason why this grant is there, where it will be used, and hence the standard says that it does not really make sense crediting a deferred grant and then adjusting it, because I don't know, money can be used anywhere. And hence the standard says this is like a capital contribution given by instead of the promoters, the government. So I'll put it inside a capital account like a capital reserve. It's a special transaction. So this is bank account debit to capital reserve if it is a grant in the nature of promoters contribution. Now this is regarding grants and their accounting. So first we figured out what is government, what is grant. Then when do you initially recognize a grant? That is the moment it is receivable and conditions are likely to be fulfilled. Then the three categorizations of grant, that is a specific grant, revenue grant, as well as a grant in the nature of promoter's contribution, and we discuss the possible applications for each of them. And then we go to the refund of grant. Now usually you don't need to refund a grant unless the conditions are violated. So the grant was given to subject to certain conditions. The government give you land at a concessional price, considering you have to rehabilitate the people over there and do some afforestation. You did not do any of them. That is, you violated the conditions. You thought you will do it, but later you could not do it, in which case you violated the conditions, in which case the grant has to be refunded. Maybe a full refund, maybe a partial refund, but the grant has to be refunded. Or the government gave you a grant for training and you did not do training, the grant has to be refunded. Or the government gave you a grant to set up a unit in a backward region, let us say in a remote location in Arunachal Pradesh, you did not do that, the grant has to be refunded if the conditions are not fulfilled. In which case, How will you adjust the refund? Well, refund is something account debit to bank because you have to pay the money. So something account debit to bank. Where will the refund be adjusted? Well, exactly in the same place where the grant had originally gone. So if this was a grant linked to asset and you had originally deducted the grant from the asset, then the refund at the time of the refund will be adjusted against the asset only. The entry will be asset account debit to bank. This is not a prior period item. This is not an error. You estimated that the grant will be fulfilled. However, you could not fulfill it, and hence you cannot retrospectively change anything. So in the year when you have to refund, you will pass the entry asset account debit to bank. However, if the grant was earlier adjusted against deferred grant, for example, in that same example of 300, 200 and 100, let us say 4 years have gone by, the asset would have been 100 divided by 10 rupees per annum, and hence 4 years ka depreciation would have been 40. So my asset would appear at 60 rupees. Now the government says you have to refund the grant, in which case asset account debit 200 to bank 200. Your asset is now costing you really not just 100, it is costing you more, and hence 260. And this 260 would be depreciated over the remaining 6 years. Out of 10 years, 4 years are done, 6 years are remaining. There will be no retrospective change in depreciation. Whatever depreciation was recorded in the past, it is done. Whatever change will happen, let us say prospectively. So this is divided by 6 and whatever is the depreciation. However, if I look at deferred grant account, the asset was recorded at 300, and over the 4 years, 300 divided by 10, 30 per annum, 4 years 120 will be the depreciation. Your asset will appear at 180, but then there will be a deferred grant balance as well. The deferred grant was 200, but that will not remain the same. 20 per annum into 4 years, that is equal to 80, and hence your asset will come down, your deferred grant will come down to 120. Now at the time of refund, what will happen? You will first adjust the balance from the deferred grant account, and excess if any will go to the P&L account. So over here your entry will be deferred grant account debit. Your entry will be deferred grant account debit. How much will you debit? 120. To let us say bank, how much will you pay? Sir, 200. So where will the excess go? Sir, P&L account. Well, why? Because in the past you must have amortized this grant to the P&L account. So the loss has, in case you have to refund and the balance is adjusted from deferred grant account, you will first adjust from the balance available in the deferred grant account, and excess if any will go to the profit and loss. Perfect. So over here, this is in case of a specific grant. If it is a specific grant which was adjusted against the asset, refund will be accounted against the asset only. If it was adjusted against deferred grant, then the refund will first be adjusted against the balance in the deferred grant, and excess if any will go to the P&L. Like even if the refund was not 200, just 140, then out of the 140, 120 will go against the deferred grant, excess 20 will go to the P&L. By the way, if the refund was just 96, then the 96 will be adjusted entirely against the deferred grant only. Okay, so over here, this is a grant which is linked to the asset. So over here, let us say deferred grant, P&L to bank. So this is your working. What if the grant was linked to revenue? Well, you must have taken into the deferred grant account and spread some of the grant. Let's say 2 years of training expenses are done. Then out of 400, 200 must have gone to the P&L, 200 is still remaining. So if you have to refund it, you will first adjust the balance against the deferred grant. Let us say 200, and excess if any will go to the P&L. And grant in the nature of promoter's contribution must have initially gone into the capital reserve. At the time of refund also, you will adjust it against the capital reserve. That's about it. So over here, this is regarding refund. In case of refund, most of the questions are linked to grant linked to assets. First they will test you for initial, and then they will test you for refund. That is the most common question that the institute usually asks. So we will try to review the questions over here. We have marked out the questions out of these 17-18 questions that are there for your LDR. We will discuss all the questions though, but a special emphasis on questions which you should also revise on the last day. Let us review question number 1. Z Limited purchased a fixed asset for 50 lakhs which has an estimated life of 5 years with a salvage value of 5 lakhs. On the purchase of the asset, so this is, you have purchased an asset, asset account debit 50 lakhs to bank 50 lakhs. On the purchase of the asset, government granted a grant for rupees 10 lakhs. Now this is linked to the asset. So this is definitely a specific grant. The first thing that you do in every sum is you figure out whether it is a specific revenue or grant in the nature of promoter's contribution. Pass and necessary journal entries in the books of the company for the first 2 years if the grant amount is deducted from the value of the fixed asset, very clearly told. So the first entry will be you purchase the asset, asset account debit to bank, that is 50 lakhs, that is over here. The second entry is the important one, when you receive the grant. Bank account debit if the money is received, or receivable account debit if it is yet to be received. Bank account debit 10 lakhs to what? Sir, I am reducing the value of the asset in a specific grant that is permitted. So bank account debit to asset. So over here, bank account debit to fixed asset. Perfect. Now in year 1, I have to pass the entry for depreciation. Now my asset will appear, my PPE will appear at 50 minus 10, that is equal to 40 in the ledger. However, when I calculate depreciation, I will look at the ledger balance, that is 40 minus the salvage value, which is 5, divided by the useful life, which is 5 years, that is 35 divided by 5, that is 7 per annum. Now there is no further deferred grant account, and hence in both the years depreciation will be recorded, depreciation account debit to asset 7 lakhs, and then P&L account debit to depreciation. So this is depreciation of 7 lakhs transfer to P&L, depreciation of 7 lakhs transfer to P&L, and that is about it. So that is question number 1. Okay, next you go to question number 2. Now this is a little interesting. Santosh Limited has received a grant of 8 crores from the government for setting up a factory in a backward area. Remember, if you are setting up something in a backward area, the government gives you an encouragement. This is usually a grant in the nature of promoter's contribution. Usually. Now some people might argue that this is a grant specifically for the factory. So chalo, alternatively one can even argue that this is a grant linked to asset. But generally if it is linked to setting up something in the backward region, we usually take it as a grant in the nature of promoter's contribution. Out of this grant, the company distributed 2 crores as dividend. Now you can distribute dividend only out of distributable profits. Distributable profits, well, capital reserve, if it is a grant in the nature of promoter's contribution, is not a distributable profit, and hence the treatment is wrong. Or even if you treat it as a specific grant, then you will either reduce it from the asset or you credit deferred grant account. In any case, you can't distribute dividend out of deferred grant, and hence this treatment is clearly wrong. You cannot really do that. You will credit the capital reserve or the deferred grant account as the case may be, but you can't distribute dividend out of it. Also, Santosh received land free of cost from the state government. Okay, free of cost, which means ideally you should record it at nominal value, but it has not recorded it at all since no money has been spent. Well, this is also wrong because you need to record it at nominal value. As per AS 12, whether the treatment of both of the items are correct, the answer is no. In the first case, you ideally should credit the capital reserve and you can't distribute any dividend out of that. Second, you have to show the land at the nominal value. So this is an interesting case, I would say. Question 3, I would say, is a subset in a way of question number 2. Top and Top has set up a business in a designated backward area which entitles the company to receive from the government of India a subsidy of 20% on the cost of the investment. So this is linked to the cost of the investment. Having fulfilled all the conditions under the scheme, the company on its investment of 50 crores in capital asset received a 10 crore, that is 20% of 50 crores, 10 crores from the government in January 17. That is the accounting period 16-17. The company wants to treat this receipt as an item of revenue. That is, it wants to take this 10 crores to the P&L, which is clearly wrong, and thereby reduce the losses in the P&L account for the year ended 31st March 17. Keeping in view the relevant accounting standard, discuss whether this action is justified. Clearly no. If it is for setting up something in the backward area, this is a grant in the nature of promoter's contribution. We should ideally go to the capital reserve and cannot go to the P&L. Even if you treat that this is a grant which is specifically linked to acquisition of fixed assets, then this will be credited to the deferred grant account or credited to the asset. In any case, you can't credit the P&L for this. So the treatment given by the company is wrong in question 3. Next you go to question number 4. It's an easy question, I would say. Z purchased a fixed asset for 50 lakhs, has an estimated life of 5 years with a salvage value of 5 lakhs. Okay, so your depreciation will be 50 minus 5, that is 45 divided by 5 in general. On the purchase of the assets, the government granted a grant of rupees 10 lakhs. Now this amount was reduced from the cost of the fixed asset. They are clearly telling you grant was considered as refundable at the end of the second year to the extent of 7 lakhs. Pass a journal entry for the refund of the grant as per the first method. First method means you have reduced the grant from the asset. So over here you can say that when you purchase the asset, the PP was recorded at 50 minus 10, that is equal to 40. Perfect. Now this is similar to question number 1, I would say, just that the refund angle is added over here. On this 40 there is a 5 lakh, so 40 minus 5, that is equal to 35, and the life is 5 years, so 7 lakhs per annum will be the depreciation. So 40 minus 7 in the first year minus 7 in the second year, and hence you must be sitting at 26 probably. Pass the journal entry for the refund. They are just asking you the entry for refund. Extra they can also ask you the depreciation for the third year. So over here the entry for the refund will be PP account debit to bank. Now how much do I have to refund? Well, 7 lakhs as given, and hence your asset will now be revised. Therefore your revised PP, just in case it was asked, here the entry ends over here, fixed asset account debit to bank, end of story. But revised PP would be 26 plus 7, which will probably be equal to 33 rupees, and hence if I have to depreciate, the revised depreciation if extra asked, this is extra. If you go to see, if it was extra asked, we would say 33 minus the salvage value of 5 divided by the remaining 3 years, and hence that will come to around 9.33 per annum in case it is asked, and most of the questions the institute usually asks you that. Okay, so this is regarding question number 4. Next you go to question number 5. A fixed asset is purchased for 20 lakhs. The government grant received towards it was 8 lakhs. Residual value is 4 lakhs and the useful life is 4 years. Okay? Assume depreciation on the basis of SLM. Asset is shown in the balance sheet net of grant. So this is again you are reducing it from the fixed asset. After 1 year, the grant becomes refundable to the extent of 5 lakhs due to non-compliance of certain conditions. Pass the entry for the first 2 years. So now you are passing the entry for the first 2 years. So the first entry will be fixed asset account debit 20 lakhs to bank 20 lakhs. And then when you receive the money, bank account debit 8 lakhs to fixed asset 8 lakhs. So these are the first 2 entries. Second, you will pass the entry for depreciation, which is 20 minus 8, which is equal to 12. And then depreciation will be 12 in your ledger minus the salvage value, which is 4 divided by 4. So this is 2 per annum. So in the first year, you will pass the entry depreciation account debit to asset. This is 2 and depreciation will go to the PL. Now you have to refund the grant after 1 year. Now if you have to refund the grant, well, your entry will be asset account debit 5 lakhs to bank 5 lakhs. So this is your entry for refund. This is against the asset account debit to bank. This is 5 lakhs. Now the thing is, you are asked to pass entry for 2 years. In which case, if I have to find the revised depreciation, my PPE at the first year would have been 12 in my ledger minus 2, that is equal to 10. Now from this, I will add 5 and hence my asset comes to 15. But this 15 again, 15 I have to spread over the next, I think 3 years remaining. Salvage value is, I think 4, 15 minus 4, that is equal to 11. 11 divided by 3 will come to approximately 3,66,667. That is what you have to apply. So this is question number 5. Like in question number 4, what you did as extra part for depreciation actually got applied over here as well. Okay, next you go to question number 6. Now in question number 6, on 1st April 16, MAC Limited received a government grant for rupees 60 lakhs for acquisition of machinery costing 300 lakhs. Okay, great. So this is 60 lakh grant. The grant was credited to the cost of the asset. In all questions till now, we are crediting to the cost of the asset. Question is telling you, so this is 300 minus 60, 240 will be the value of the asset. The estimated useful life of the machinery is 10 years and the machinery is depreciated 10% WDV. It is given to you, so we will take that 10% WDV. The company had to refund the grant in June of 2019 due to non-compliance of certain conditions. So you acquired on 1st April 16, which means this is after 3 years and another 2 months maybe. Maybe assuming the grant is refunded at the start of June 19, you can also assume end of June 19. How will the refund of the grant be dealt with in the books of MAC, assuming the company did not charge any depreciation for the year 1920? So what? We will charge the depreciation. So over here, your PPE will appear at 240 to start with, which is 300 minus 60. This will be 240 to start with, on which you will charge depreciation. Now, how much will be the depreciation? Well, for year 1, this will be 24. For year 2, WDV, so 216 into 10%, 21.6. And then 216 minus 10% comes to 194.4. So this is minus 19.44. So basically on 1st April 2019, your asset will appear probably at 174.96. Now the thing is, the grant is refunded not in April 19, it is refunded in June 19, and as a result over here there will be a further depreciation. Even institute has taken that for 2 months. This is 174.96 into 10% into 2 by 12. You can also assume 3 by 12 if you assume that the refund is happening at the end of June. 174.96 into 10% into 2 by 12. So this comes to 2.916, or let's say 2.92, which means your asset will be at 174.96 minus this, it will be 172.044. Now there's a refund. How much is the refund? Well, if they have not told you, then the entire amount has to be refunded. So your entry for refund will be asset account debit to bank. So your asset over here will be debited by 60, and hence in June 19 you will pass an entry for refund. This is plus 60, this comes to 232.044, on which you will charge depreciation for the next 10 months into 10%, but into 10 by 12, comes to probably 19.33 of depreciation. So during the year, the depreciation to be recorded is 19.33 as well as 2.92, that is the total depreciation that will go to the P&L. So over here, this entry for the depreciation for the 2 months is a little tricky. Other than that, refund we will adjust, and future depreciation will be on 232 to be provided over the remaining life. And we have mentioned that this is considered a refund is at the beginning of June for 2 months. Alternative answer may also be possible, that is you are assuming a refund at the end of June or middle of June as well. So your total depreciation will be 2.91 plus 19.33, that is 22, and that will be taken to the P&L account. Okay, so that is question number 6. Now question number 7, finally we'll have a case where the entity might follow the net method or it might also follow the gross method. So let us review this. A Limited purchased a machinery for 40 lakhs. Useful life is 4 years and residual value is 8 lakhs. Government grant received is 16 lakhs. Show the journal entry to be passed at the time of refund in the 3rd year. Again, you can assume at the start of the 3rd year or end of 3rd year. And value of fixed assets if the grant is credited to fixed assets and the deferred grant is credited to deferred grant. Usually institute in almost all of these sums assumes refund happening at the start of the year. You can also assume end of the year, but institute usually assume start of the year. So let us assume if it was at the start of the year, what do you have to find? You have to find the balance of you have to pass the entry at the time of refund. Well, if the grant was credited to the fixed asset, the entry is very easy. It is PP account debit or fixed asset account debit to bank. How much is the amount? Well, the refund of the grant, let's say 16 lakhs. 16 will be the amount. If you want to find the value of the fixed assets, well, we will say that starting with the asset was 40 minus 16 must have been deducted, and hence the asset must be at 24. Now 24 ke upar depreciation, the salvage value is 8. So depreciation will be 24 minus 8 divided by how many years? 4 years. So this is 16 divided by 4, 4 per annum, and hence 4 per annum into 2 years if they have gone by, that is 8. And hence the asset would have appeared at 16. Abhi, after this refund, the asset will appear, PP will appear at 16 plus 16, that is equal to 32. So over here this is equal to 32. If I go to see in the first instant, machinery account debit to bank, and then the asset will come to 32, and if you have to depreciate further, this 32 will be depreciated over the remaining 2 years. That is 32 minus the salvage value upon the 2 years, that is 12 lakhs. If it was asked, this is extra. Second, what if it had gone to the deferred grant? Now this was not done in earlier problems. If it had gone to the deferred grant, your PPE would continue. So when you look at the deferred grant method, your PP would appear, for example, at the entire 40 rupees, but there will be a deferred grant balance of 16. This PP you will depreciate. This PP you will depreciate. For example, the depreciation over here would be 40 minus 8 divided by 4. So this would be 40 minus 8, that is 32 divided by 4. This will come to probably 8 per annum, and for 2 years 16, and hence 24 will be your asset balance. Deferred grant will be deferred in the ratio of depreciation, that is 4 in each year, and 4 into 2, that is equal to 8. So you will have a balance of 8 rupees lying. So when you have to pass an entry for refund, deferred grant will first be adjusted. Deferred grant account debit 8 to bank. Deferred grant account debit 8 to bank. How much are you refunding? 16. So your entry over here will be, let us say, deferred grant account debit, let's say 8 to, let us say, bank. How much is that? 16, and hence the balancing figure of 8 will go to the profit and loss account. So as you can see, deferred grant account debit, P&L account debit, let's say to bank. Now we have found the balance in the deferred grant. If you go to see in this entry, PP is not getting impacted. So if PP does not get impacted, you don't have to kind of change the depreciation going forward. Your PP will continue to remain at 24 lakhs only. There will be no change in the balance of 24 lakhs going forward. Your depreciation will still continue to remain the same, 24 minus 8, that is equal to 16, to be spread over the remaining 2 years, that is 8 lakhs per annum. So over here they have just asked you to find the entry at the time of refund in the first method, machinery account debit to bank. In the second method, you will have to prepare a working note for the deferred grant balance, and the balance will go to the P&L account debit to bank, and for PP balance we will have to prepare a separate working. So PP over here was 16, to which you will add the refund. In the second case, the PP was 24, for which the refund is not separately adjusted. Depreciation was not asked, but a question could have asked you, like they will ask you, I think in question number 10 or something, where they will ask you to calculate the balance of the PP as well as the depreciation, in which case we have just shown an extra working which will help us in probably solving question number 10. Perfect. So next we'll go to question number 8. So at question number 8, there's a very interesting situation. What has happened over here is you will apply for a grant. However, the government takes its time to sanction it. Till that time, you cannot recognize the grant, and hence you do the working in the usual manner. But when you actually receive the grant, if you adjust the grant against fixed asset, the fixed asset balance can go negative, and that is what they have done. So here we would want to kind of see how we should adjust. Okay, so we'll discuss in line with this question. It's a slightly different question, so we'll mark this for LDR. D Limited acquired a machine on 1st April 2012 for 20 lakhs. Great. The useful life of the machine is 5 years, and the company has applied on 1st April 12 itself for a subsidy to the tune of 80% of the cost, that is 16 lakhs. The sanction letter for this subsidy was received all the way back in November 15. That is a good, I think, 3 years and a few months later. The company's fixed asset account for the financial year 15-16 showed a credit balance as under. Now, how did you take it to credit? Well, ideally 20 lakhs would be the initial cost, from which you will subtract depreciation. Now useful life is 5 years, so 20 lakhs divided by 5 years, and this will come to, let us say, in each year 4 lakhs per annum. So this is 4 lakhs per annum into, for example, 3 years have fully gone by, and hence this is 12 lakhs, and hence your ledger shows 8 lakhs, mind you, on 1st April 2015. Now, in my opinion, ideally till November 15, when you get this grant, there should be further depreciation. For example, if you assume that the grant is received at the start of November, then there are another 7 months on which the depreciation should be done ideally, in my opinion. Institute has not done it in this question, but it has done it in one earlier question. If you remember question number 6, they have taken depreciation for 2 months. So this is a little inconsistent solution, I would say, but strictly speaking, there would be depreciation for around 7 months, that is April to November. For the financial year, shows a credit balance as under. So you have taken 20 minus 12, that is equal to 8, less the grant received. Okay. Now the grant is received in November 2015, which means your entry in November 15 would be bank account debit. You will debit the bank. By how much will you debit the bank? 16 lakhs. Now what will you credit? Well, you will credit the fixed asset or PP as the case may be. Now if you credit the fixed asset by, for example, 16 lakhs, you don't have enough balance in the ledger. You may either have 8 lakhs if you don't charge depreciation, but even if you charge depreciation, you'll have less than 8 lakhs, but basically you have less. So this is your balance coming to negative. Can fixed asset have a negative balance? No. So this is not correct. Your fixed asset cannot have a negative balance. You are required to explain how the company should deal with this asset in its accounts for the year 15-16. Okay. So over here you will have less. So this is 8 lakhs. Your entry, now in my opinion there would be 2 solutions. If I go to what the institute's material has mentioned, not considering any depreciation, for the year your entry will be bank account debit. I will receive 16 lakhs to, let us say, PP. In my ledger there is only 8 lakhs, and hence I will have to credit the PNL for the remaining 8 lakhs. Sir, why PNL? Maybe I have charged over depreciation in the earlier years. Acha, sir, alternatively क्या कर सकते हैं? Well, the depreciation for 7 months, assuming the grant was received at the start of November, this is going to be 4 lakhs, which is the depreciation per annum, into 7 divided by 12, comes to around 2,33,333. So this is 2,33,333. This is depreciation, and hence you will have 8 lakhs minus 2,33,333, which comes to, for example, 8 lakhs, which comes to 5 lakh 66,667. My alternative entry would be bank account debit 16 lakhs. I am still receiving that. To PP I will credit what is there in my ledger, that is 5 lakh 66,667, and hence in my PNL I will take the remaining, that is I think 10 lakh 33,333. So basically what is happening over here is the excess 2,33,333, which was charged as depreciation, is in any case getting reversed, and hence probably the institute has done it directly, though this is more intuitively correct in my opinion, if you at least want to keep it consistent with question number 6. So this is question number 8. This is the entry that the institute has possibly passed. Next, you go to question number 9. A specific government grant of 15 lakhs was received by USB. This is clearly given that this is a specific grant for acquiring high-tech dairy plant for 95 lakhs. Okay. During the year 14-15. Now, during the year, they have not told you that at the start of the year, at the end of the year. Let us say all of this was done at the start of the year. Can also be assumed to be the end. Plant has a useful life of 10 years. The grant was credited to deferred income in the book, in the balance sheet. So it's very clearly told that this 15 lakhs is going to go to the deferred income, and hence the asset will be at 95 lakhs. During the year 17-18, due to non-compliance of conditions laid down for the grant, the company had to refund the whole grant. Now again during 17-18 year open-ended. So in line with Institute Solutions, we can assume start, alternatively can also be assumed at end. To refund the whole grant to the government. Acha, this sentence is kind of spoon feeding you the next sentence. Even if it is not given, we could have found it. What are they telling? Balance in the deferred income on that date was 10.5 and written down value of the plant was 66.5. So when we do the workings over here, we will have, let's say, PPE. Your PP is appearing at 95 and then 95 divided by 10 into 3 years have gone by. From the start of 14-15 to the start of 17-18, 3 years have gone by. So 95 divided by 10 into 3, that is 28.5 and 95. So this comes to 66.5. So this is your balance in the PP. And then when I look at deferred grant, in my deferred grant, again I will defer it in the ratio of depreciation. So over here, my deferred grant balance was 15 minus 15 divided by 10 into 3. So this comes to, let us say, 10.5. So my point was, this is given to you, well and good, great, saves time. But if not given, I could still calculate it on my own. Now what should be the treatment for the refund of the grant and the effect on the cost of the plant and the amount of depreciation to be charged during the year 17-18 in the P&L. So one by one. First is the treatment of the refund. So when I look at the refund, I will adjust it first against the balance in the deferred grant. So this is deferred grant account debit, 10.5 to bank. How much is the grant? Sir, 15. And hence the remaining 4.5 will possibly go to the profit and loss account. Achha, so this will be the treatment of the refund adjusted against deferred grant 10.5, then going 4.5 to the P&L account. Effect on the cost of the plant. There will be no effect. Your cost of the asset continues to remain at 66.5 because the refund entry does not impact the cost. And hence if it does not impact the cost, the depreciation will remain the same. If I take 66.5 as a base for the remaining 7 years, 66.5 for the remaining 7 years will come to again 9.5. Alternatively, you can also take 95 divided by 10, which is also going to be 9.5 only. Point 1. Point 2. What should be the treatment of the refund if the grant was deducted from the cost of the plant in 14-15? Okay, if it was deducted, this would be 95 minus 15, that is equal to 80, and this 80 to be depreciated each year over 3 years, that is 80 divided by 10, that is 8 rupees per annum for 3 years is 24 rupees. So 80 minus 24 must be 56. Assuming the plant account showed a balance of 56 as on 1st April 17, even if it was not given this 56, we could have still calculated it. Now in this case, if I had to adjust for the refund, my entry will be PP account debit, for example 15, to let us say bank, let us say 15. Therefore, my PP balance, which was earlier, I think 56, will increase by 56 plus 15 to come to 71. And hence I will say 71 divided by the remaining 7 years. So the depreciation will be 10.14 per annum. Therefore, the revised depreciation would be 10.14 per annum. Okay, so this will give me 10.14, asset at 71, and over here the depreciation remaining in the first case at 9.5 and the asset at 66.5. Question 9, I would not really say anything very separately new over here. Okay, then is question number 10. There is an RTP question and a very similar exam question which has also come exactly similar to this, where you have to identify what is the type of the grant and comment on the accounting treatment for the same. So how would you treat the following in the accounts for the year as in accordance with AS 12? First, 35 lakh received from the local authority for providing medical facilities to the employees. Now this is a grant which is linked to revenue, not linked to acquisition of a specific asset, not even a lump sum grant for setting up in a backward area. So this is to be a revenue linked grant, and you will initially credit the grant that is received in the deferred grant account and then defer it in the ratio of the medical expenses to be incurred. Now if the medical expenses have already been incurred, then the grant can go to the P&L account. 100 lakhs received as subsidy from central government for setting up a unit in a notified backward region. So this is a grant in the nature of promoter's contribution. And if it is a nature of promoter's contribution, it should be credited to the capital reserve. Okay, 10 lakh grant received from the central government on installation of anti-pollution equipment. Now this is very clearly a specific grant which is linked to acquisition of a particular asset, where you have two choices. You can either reduce this 10 lakhs from the cost of the asset, or you can credit it to deferred grant and amortize it in the ratio of the depreciation. So this is a classic question. So over here 35 lakhs, as you can see over here, is a revenue grant. In the second case, it is in a grant of nature of promoter's contribution, and third is a grant linked to a specific fixed asset, and accordingly they have explained the accounting treatment. You can do that in your own words. You don't have to reproduce the detailed institute language. Next is question number 11. Supriya Limited received a grant of 2,500 lakhs during the accounting year 15-16 from the government for welfare activities to be carried out by the company for its employees. This is very clearly a grant which is linked to the welfare activities of the employees, and hence this is a grant which is linked to revenue. The grant prescribed conditions for utilization. However, during the year 16-17, maybe that is in the next year, it was found that the conditions of the grant were not complied with and the grant had to be refunded to the government. In full, elucidate the accounting treatment with reference to the provision of AS 12. Now, we have not been told that this is for welfare activities for how many years. So, ideally, whatever grant of 2,500 I received in the year 15-16, I would have credited to deferred grant and then I would have deferred it over the years, of which 1 year has gone by. Next year, if I have to refund it, then I will adjust it against the balance in the deferred grant, and excess will be taken to the profit and loss. So, this is just a theory question, I would say, where they say in the present case, refund of the grant should be shown in the P&L of the company as an extraordinary item. This is an AS5 application. In AS5, refund of grants is treated as an extraordinary items. So, over here, as you can see, amount refundable is applied first to unamortized balance in the deferred credit, and the excess will be taken to the profit and loss account. We have not been given how many years, so we can't really find the deferred grant balance, but as a principle, if you answer, this would be the principle based answer. Next is question number 12. Hygiene has received a grant of 50 lakhs in 2012 from a state government towards installation of pollution control machinery on fulfillment of certain conditions. Okay, so this is a grant linked to acquisition of a specific fixed asset. The company, however, failed to comply with the said conditions and consequently was required to refund the said amount in 2020, that is a good 8 years later. The company debited the said amount to its machinery in 2020 on payment of the same. Acha, what did we do? Well, we received the grant of 50, and unless given otherwise, we assume that we must have deducted this from the PP in 2012, in which case at the time of refund, what should you do? Well, you should debit the refund against the PP, which is correct. The company debited the said amount to its machinery on payment of the same. I would say this is a correct accounting treatment. It also reworked the depreciation for the said machinery from the date of its purchase and pass the necessary adjusting entries in the year 2020 to incorporate the retrospective impact of the same. Wait. Do I need to retrospectively adjust the depreciation? The answer is no. Remember, whenever there is a refund, I will, like I did in question number, I think I did in question number 10, sub point 2, whenever there was a refund, I did PP account debit to bank 15. That is correct. However, the depreciation will be prospectively adjusted. I will not go back and change the last 3 years depreciation in question number I think 9, and similarly this treatment to retrospectively adjust the depreciation is not correct. Remember, I had estimated that I will comply with the conditions, and as a result I had done a particular accounting, but later in 2020 I actually see that I could not comply with the conditions, and hence that is not an error, that is a change in estimate. I estimated that the conditions will be complied, well, by the way, it were not complied, and hence it is a change in estimate. So over here, accordingly, accounting treatment given by hygiene for increasing the value of the plant and machinery is quite proper. Point 1. However, accounting treatment in respect of depreciation given by the company, that is giving a retrospective effect, is improper and a violation of AS 12. So this is a good case, I would say, not specifically a full-fledged LDR working. It is just that if you can highlight this part over here for the solution and this part over here in the question, that is an interesting application for you. That is question number 12. Next we go to question number 13. Now Darshan, it's an exam question. Darshan purchased machinery on 1st April 16 for 130 lakhs. Useful life is 4 years. Grant received is 40 lakhs for the purchase of the machinery. This is very clearly a specific grant. It is for purchase of the machinery. Salvage value at the end is assumed to be 60 lakhs and Darshan decides to treat this as deferred income. Perfect. So we have a question where there's a deferred income adjustment. You are required to calculate the amount of depreciation and the grant to be recognized in the profit and loss for the year ended 31st March 17, 18, 19, 20, and Darshan follows the straight line method for charging depreciation. Now, if it's an exam question, you can review this for LDR, but I would say it's a easy question. It's just that like question 1 was a question pertaining to asset being adjusted at cost. Here this is deferred grant. So in this case, if I were to pass the entry, this question is not asking me, but if I were to pass the entry, my first entry will be PP account debit 130 to, let us say, bank 130. Second, my entry will be when I receive the grant, bank account debit, let us say 40 to deferred grant 40. And now what will I do? I will defer this grant in the ratio of depreciation. So how will I calculate depreciation? So the depreciation which is calculated on a straight line basis will be the same in each year. That is 130 minus 60, which is the salvage value, divided by 4. That is 130 minus 60 divided by 4, that comes to 17.5. And the grant amortization, if I were to amortize, that is grant income, which is I think 40 divided by 4, that is equal to 10 per annum. So basically in each of the years I will record a depreciation of 17.5 and in each of the years there will be a grant amortization of 10 per annum. Okay, so this is question number 13. 14 and 15 are linked to revenue grants. So let's discuss this. Company X runs a charitable hospital. It incurs the salary of doctors, staff, etc. to the extent of 30 lakhs per annum. Okay, so that is salary account debit to bank in each year, 30 lakhs. Basically it is equal salary. As a support, the local government grants a lump sum 90 lakhs to meet the salary expense for the next 5 years. Wapas. As a support, the local government grants a lump sum payment of 90 lakhs to meet the salary expense for a period of 5 years. So when this money is received at year 0, my entry will be bank account debit 90 lakhs. But this is a revenue grant. I can't take it to the P&L immediately. I will take it to the P&L when the expenses to meet this are actually incurred. That is in each of those 5 years. So over here, this is first credited to deferred grant account. Okay. You are required to pass a journal entries in the books of the company for the first year if the grant is to be shown separately in other income or it is to be deducted against salary cost. Okay, so there are two possibilities in year. See, basically in year 1, apart from this, there will be another entry in year 1. This is salary. You will have to pay the salary account debit, let us say, to bank. How much are you going to pay, sir? We are going to pay 30. And we are going to pay that same 30 in each of the years. So in the first case, I can amortize the deferred grant and take it to grant income in the P&L account in other income. How much is that? Well, on a straight line basis, 90 into 1 by 5. Probably this comes to, I think, 18. That is right. 18 lakhs will go to the P&L account. In the second case, I will say that this deferred grant still needs to be amortized, but instead of showing P&L, I will reduce it from the salary cost, and hence this same 18 will go against the salary. So if I were to look at the presentation, how will the presentation happen? In year 1, under the first method, you will show salary. If I were to prepare a T format, let us say in the first method, if I were to show, let us say, a salary of 30 and a grant income of 18. In the second method, rather than showing a grant income separately, I will show salary of 30 minus grant income of 18 and hence 12 rupees. So this is basically what we need to figure out is, यहाँ पे 18 lakhs will go in other income. In the second one, 18 lakhs is going to go into salary, and that is about it. Question 15 is like an extension of question number 14, just that in 15 there is a refund of this grant because you are violating conditions. So X again runs a charitable hospital. It incurs salary for doctors to the extent of 30 lakhs. As a support, local government a lump sum payment of 90 lakhs to meet this salary expense for the next 5 years. This is exactly same as question number 14. At the start of year 4, that is after 3 years, X is unable to meet the conditions attached to the grant and is required to refund the entire 90 lakhs. Now if I have to refund the entire 90 lakhs, it is something account debit to bank. To bank is 90 lakhs. Achha, what will I debit? First the balance in the deferred grant. What is the balance in the deferred grant? Well, 90 was there, minus 90 divided by 5 into 3 years have gone by, and hence this is 90 divided by 5 into 3, this comes to 54 and 90. So over here my balance in the deferred grant is 36. So at the start of year 4, if I have to pass the entry, I will first adjust it against the balance in the deferred grant account debit 36 to, let us say, bank. How much am I paying? 90, and hence there is a remaining. Where will this go? Sir, P&L account. This is remaining 54, which will go where? To the profit and loss account. So this is deferred grant, profit and loss, and to bank. What is the question further telling you? You are required to pass journal entries for refund if the grant was shown separately in other income. Even if it was not shown separately in other income, it was deducted from salary. This is the same entry that you will pass at the time of refund. Perfect. This is question number 16 now. This is from a recent, very recent September 24 RTP. Now, Energy Limited has acquired a generator on 1st April 23 for 100 lakhs. On 2nd April 23, it applied to the Indian Renewable Energy Department Authority, IREDA, for a subsidy. So, this is an application made. But this is not when the grant becomes receivable, it becomes receivable when the application is approved or sanctioned. The subsidy was granted in June 24, that is in the next year, after the accounts of the year 23-24 were finalized. Okay. The company has not accounted for the subsidy for the year ended 31st March 2024. That treatment is correct. Remember, you can record the subsidy or a grant the moment it becomes receivable. Now, in the year 23-24, it was not receivable, and as a result, we cannot record it separately. You can record it only when it becomes receivable. It becomes receivable in June 2024, and hence no effect was given in the year 23-24, which is correct. Again, this is not a prior period error, because it is a matter of fact that the sanction was received in June 24. That does not require a prior period item adjustment. So, is it a prior period item? Answer is no. So, this is a good question. I would say you can put this for LDR, because over here there's AS5 also applicable. Can I show it as a prior period item? No. Prior period item as per AS5 are errors, mistakes or omissions in the earlier years, which now get detected. Now, there was no error in the earlier years. You had applied for a grant, it was not yet sanctioned, so there is no error. How should the subsidy be accounted for in the year 24-25? Well, over here, this is a subsidy for a specific fixed asset, so you can either deduct the subsidy from the cost, or you can credit a deferred income account and then amortize it in the ratio of depreciation. So over here, as you can see in the first part, they say company was right in not recognizing the grant. Again, in view of this, company is correct not adjusting the same in the accounts of the year 23-24. It is not a prior period item. There was no mistake, error or omission. Second, subsidy should either be deducted from the cost of the generator because it is specific, or alternatively, you can treat it as deferred income and defer it in the ratio of depreciation. Okay, and then you go to the last question. This is from May 23 papers. We'll quickly kind of solve this, and that will take care of AS12. On 1st April 2021, Eleanor purchased a manufacturing plant for 60 lakhs, which has a useful life of 10 years and a salvage value of 10 lakhs. Okay. On purchase of a plant, a grant of 20 lakhs was received from the government. Now, this is a grant which is a specific grant, which is acquisition of a specific asset. You are required to calculate the amount of depreciation as per AS12 for the financial year 22-23. Achha, this was purchased on 1st April 21. You are asked to figure out the depreciation for the year 22-23 in the following cases. First, if the grant amount is deducted from the value of the plant. Well, if it is deducted from the value of the plant, the asset will be shown as 60 minus 20, that is equal to 40. Your PP will appear at 40, but the depreciation will be 40 minus the salvage value, which is 10 over the life of 10 years, and hence each year this is going to be 3 per annum. Your depreciation will be 3 per annum. It is SLM, so it will be the same each year. If the grant is treated as deferred income, if it is treated as deferred income, your depreciation will be 60 minus 10. Grant will not be deducted as 50 divided by 10, that is equal to 5 per annum. As you can see, 3 lakhs. As you can see, 5 lakhs. Exam question, but a very easy one. Point 3. If the grant amount is deducted from the value of the plant, but at the end of year 22-23, very clearly given at the end of 22-23, grant is refunded to the extent of 4 lakhs. due to non-compliance of certain conditions, then what will happen? Well, there will be ideally no change in the depreciation for the year 22-23 because the grant is refunded at the end of the year. So whatever change, if you were asked to pass the depreciation for the year 23-24, yes, there will be a change, but otherwise this will still be, well, if I deduct it from the cost, my asset would be at 60 minus 20, that is equal to 40, and my depreciation would have been 40 minus 10 divided by 10, that is equal to 3 per annum, and this must be the depreciation for the first year. By the way, this must also be the depreciation for the second year. Sir, but there's a refund is at the end of the second year, and hence it will change the depreciation from the third year onwards. Let's say a company is doing quarterly reporting, in which case it must have done depreciation for the earlier quarters as well, and hence ideally Institute has given you this solution, but they've also mentioned an alternative solution. I would not read too much into the alternative solution. I would stick to the 3 lakhs only over here, which is more appropriate. Point 4, if the grant is treated as in the nature of promoter's contribution, well, if it is treated in the nature of promoter's contribution, then my entry would be bank account debit to capital reserve. My asset will still appear at 60, of which 10 rupees is the salvage value, divided by the remaining 10 years, and hence this will be 5 per annum. So over here, if I go to C, I will take this as 5 lakhs per annum, and that is about it. So this kind of takes care of AS12, a fairly interesting standard. In terms of importance, I would strongly recommend you focus on, mostly the question would come on specific grant plus refund. Under both cases, using the net method and the gross method, this is probably the most important part. If you kind of think through the numbers, past general entries in one question, that okay, what is the numbers under both method? If there's a refund under both methods, put the entry. 9 out of 10 cases you should be able to solve an exam question. There can be other cases as well, like promoter's contribution or revenue grant, which are relatively easier and you can easily manage. Okay, so this takes care of AS12, and I'll see you soon with another standard. Till then, keep studying well, and good luck. Goodbye.